So, back in the day, there's a little independent comic called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And not certain if you heard of it. If you haven't, somehow you have been under a rock on Mars for like 25 to 40
With the
years.
biker mice.
From Mars?
From Mars.
So they didn't really have much of a toy line on it. They did.
They did. I had biker mice from Mars toys.
Yeah. Like I said, they did, but they're no turtles.
No, nobody's a turtle.
Much like Scooby-Doo, see our cartoon episode for more information on that. There's a lot of imitators. Street Sharks, Biker Mice from Mars.
Take that back. Biker Mice from Mars was the most original show on the planet, and I remember none of it.
I would say, when's the last time you watched an episode?
I'm going to go watch it right now.
You 100% should. It will change, not for the better, but it will change your life.
Just a reminder, this is a spoiler-heavy podcast. Different series that require a spoiler warning will be in the description. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Gaming Theater Podcast. Today's episode is going to be a special episode about a brief look about the history and the evolution of stories that are based around action figures and stories that are used basically for action figures, dolls, and things of that nature. Now, to help me out with exploring this information, I've got a few guests with me. Now, let's go ahead and do a couple quick introductions. Once again, my name is Leo. I am the Geek Scorpio and your host for this evening. And over to my right over here is going to be...
Hi, my name is Dane. I go by D and Dane on the internet. I'm on Twitch and TikTok. I do stuff for GTP, and I'm a award-winning game master.
Yeah, you are.
We'll go with that. My intro changes every time I say it.
At least it's not one of those intro changes where it's like, I'm a suggested game master, and then you get periodically better rank as you go.
Yeah. I've currently leveled up. I'm a level 6 game master now. Hoping to go for level 7 soon. That should be cool.
Now, over to there, right, is going to be someone who's been on the cast a lot.
I am Zombie Hand, also known as Liz. I do work with GTP, and I am an artist. You can find me at Zombie Hand Creations on Instagram and zombie_hand on Twitter.
All right. And someone who's new to our podcast, but is going to be a special guest for today. Just quickly introduce him.
Hi, I'm Tristan. I'm a longtime supporter of Gaming Theater Podcast. However, it's my first time being on the show. If you like cosplay and dolls, you can follow some of my work on Instagram at Rosie Meeson.
All right. Now, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get a quick trip over to the Magical Merch Booth. Here we are at the Magical Merch Booth. Now, today's Magical Merch Booth is going to be a little bit different because on today's Magical Merch Booth, we are officially, for GTB, going to be yet again a guest over at Gem State Gaming Convention. And so if you're in the Idaho, Boise area I believe it's coming out in July. I don't have the official dates yet, and we'll announce more when we get closer to those dates. But we are officially going to be back again for yet another live podcast. A few other panels being hosted by several members of GATP and some other special things that are on there. It's a fun time for everybody, and if you just love to spend a weekend and a half just doing nothing but board games, which I have been known to do, and I think you should just hop in and check it out.
Yeah, please make sure to come down July 19th to the 21st at Expo Idaho. Board games, tabletop role-playing games, card games, all sorts of games.
Games galore. Games.
We got games. You want games? We got games.
So many games.
All games must go, and by go, I mean come play them. I don't know if they're probably selling games too. Come find out.
With all that being said, let's get back to the show. So on today's episode, what we're talking about today is action figures and dolls and how they are stories that are based on the dolls. So this is a little different than how we would normally approach it. Dolls have been around for centuries and have been around I think the earliest known doll is somewhere in the Dark Ages, at least, and even further back than that. as a conventional toy, a doll existing is just a thing that appears. Not very fancy. Most of those are usually made of straw or sometimes wool and just stuffed into a something with a face. Close enough. It's a doll. We call it a win. You don't need much to be fancy for that. But dolls come around and they start evolving to either some fancier ones like the porcelain dolls, which look too fragile. Oh, and the creepy dolls. Those are always fun. I don't have a better name of what that is. I just know I don't want to be in a room with like 16 creepy dolls that look like that.
Sometimes it is those porcelain dolls where they look a little too creepy, like they're gonna suck out your soul through their eyes or something, and
You don't know what it is. You just know it when you see it.
yeah.
When you get there, you'll get there.
You'll know when you see it.
What is it? It's in I want to say Parks and Recreation. Parks and Rec. They had an episode where they're at a bed and breakfast, and there's nothing but porcelain dolls in one room.
Nope.
Would freak me out. I'm like, you know what? Not sleeping tonight. That's an option I'm taking.
Yeah, I'm good. Just like in general.
Like in general, I'm cool. So this sort of
I'll be keeping vigil all night instead.
Don't need no caffeine. Not when someone's trying to take my soul. That's how that works.
A whole bunch of nightmare fuel.
So but dolls in general are just considered as sort of little toys that for children, and that's about it. Until we get to about the 50s, two major dolls start popping up in the 50s and 60s for that. The first big one is
Barbie.
Yeah, it's Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie. So
from the movie? Crazy.
That's the one I know. Barbie itself is basically a toy that's just a toy. But for the most part, this doll, as Barbie moves on throughout the world, it gets expressions, it gets things added to it, accessories, but that accessories about built into it. And then they start adding other things for it. Ken, Stacy, other members, and they build upon it. Like I think Stacy's what?
Courtney. I think Stacy and Courtney are her sisters, I believe.
Yeah, Stacy and Courtney are her younger sisters. Ken is her boyfriend.
There was another Ken.
Ryan?
Like Stacy's. Was it Ryan?
Ryan. There's a Ryan. I know that.
I think there was like a Stacy boyfriend. There's like a little kid, like a toddler sister.
I know who. I've seen what you're talking about. I just don't remember what.
Can't believe you all forgot Alan.
Oh, Alan.
Alan.
There's Alan and
it's
and
very
Smith and
on
Midge.
brand that we would forget about Alan. Actually,
You're not wrong, but I'm still sad.
Except me. You'd think I would know an Alan of all of them.
So Alan, honestly, like even going into the Barbie movie, I knew Alan's role as Ken's best friend, and I don't know if Alan did anything else. Like that is his job. He's 100% Ken's best friend, and that's about it.
He's Ken's buddy, quote unquote. Like it even
not even
said
best
that
friend.
like, on his original packaging. It had he's Ken's quote buddy. Why the quote?
Oh, she has 3 younger sisters, Skipper, Stacy, and Chelsea. Chelsea's the baby.
Oh.
There's Skipper, I forgot about her.
Now, if Barbie wasn't your flavor, also coming around this time was G.I. Joe, which was the manly man G.I. Joe, which was basically a soldier, but what was cool is that he also had he was something like 6 or 7 inches tall. Like that's a pretty big doll right there for you. And he's got roughed up, and he had accessories, which was you could dress him up as a soldier. You could also dress him up as a firefighter. You could also dress him up as a construction worker, I think.
So he was the dress-up doll, but for boys.
Yeah, for lack of a better term,
that's
about it.
Nobody can get mad at girls for playing dress up with their Barbies when boys were doing the same.
They're action figures. It's different.
Dolls. Go play with your dolls.
Now,
G.I. Joe was definitely the village people before the village people. Just throwing that out there.
I don't think you're wrong about that. I think there is.
All right,
You
is
can dress
there
the G.I. Joe as a sailor, a soldier, a construction worker, and I believe a police officer. Yeah, most of this is village people.
is there a YMCA music video parody done with Ken as every one of the village people?
I don't
There
doubt it.
should be.
There should be, but I don't doubt it. But these are two iconic toys that we have through our zeitgeist. Like, we're talking about them now, and these are the original ones for the 50s and such. Now, what happens is that these toys start building up like a lore of themselves, which is kind of a unique thing. You're collecting, especially with Barbie, you collect the other Barbies itself because they usually have different accessories, and this is Barbie's role at this point in time for it, like Nurse Barbie or Executive Barbie or Stewardess Barbie or whatever.
I'm sure
Barbie
that corporate Barbie did not actually exist in the 60s or 70s.
I'm talking more in general, but no, not in the 60s. But in the 80s,
we do not have like corporate businesswoman Barbie until the 2000s.
I think there's one in the 80s actually.
Oh,
I don't know how many people here watched Barbie Life in the Dream House, but if for anyone who hasn't watched it, like one of the running jokes in that show is like, I don't know, Barbie will be like, we'll need to take the dog to the vet or something like that, and Skipper like will run into the room like, wait, weren't you a vet? Or
Oh yeah.
or man, who's gonna bake all these cupcakes? Weren't you a chef?
good.
I think there was one joke that was something like,
very
yeah, I
self-aware.
was a chef right before my days as an astronaut. So these are sort of the most notorious of toys. There's various other toys on there, but they don't have nearly the chutzpah or the flavor that comes in with Barbie and G.I. Joe. However, all this will change due to a little thing that happens in the 70s, 1900s of the 70s, called Star Wars. Now, the reason why Star Wars is important is no one in any executive thing thought Star Wars would be a profitable idea. Yes, there is.
That's my Luke Skywalker. He's got his lightsaber comes out. You can put it in his other hand instead.
That is very suggestive, Luke
His-
Skywalker.
His lightsaber comes out, huh?
You can put it in his other hand.
I'm pretty sure it's already out from what I'm seeing here.
No, there's a leaf.
Mm.
When you have a statue of David that is also Luke Skywalker, I mean, the Force is strong with this one.
This is a gift to me after I saw it at a convention, and I was like, I have to. They also had Leia as the Venus de Milo. Anyway, I had to share because I love that.
So what happens with that in Star Wars is Star Wars hits theaters, and the major thing that happens with Star Wars, not only just being a cultural phenomenon, but even from the business side, Lucas Studios handled the business side for that one. Is Fox Studios, which is I think it's Fox, 20th Century Fox, held the original rights for the first Star Wars movie, if I recall. Now, anyway, they hold the rights to the first Star Wars movie, except they thought it was such a flop that they just gave up to George Lucas, originally, merchandising rights.
Don't you love when that happens? When somebody's like, we don't have anything of value, and then it goes on to be something incredibly profitable.
So what happens is that the toys are they're making toys for Star Wars, and Star Wars hits like gangbusters. Star Wars is big, especially for, keep in mind, science fiction is not considered as a commercial success for anything until Star Wars comes out.
Good for Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. But what we're talking about here is Star Wars merchandising. So they would make a toy, and they would announce that this toy would be coming out, and the toy sells out like crazy. There used to be, you could buy a Millennium Falcon that had little boxes inside the Millennium Falcon to hold different characters from Star Wars. Here's the thing: they didn't have enough manufactured. People were pre-ordering Star Wars doll, and it got so thick with that they were starting to come up with characters on the side to add into the Star Wars lore later, but they would have the toy for it first, which is just kind of a weird thing. But that was a thing that they were doing on it. And they could get away with it because what happened is also as part of this, Star Wars had a deal with Marvel at the time to make comics for Star Wars. And the comics were used as an interim storyline between Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back. And so, like, they explained a bunch of stuff in there. But this is toys and merchandising that's made specifically for what's going to come up for a movie that's going to happen later. And so all these toys are starting to be made specifically as characters before they are going to be introduced in the next film for that.
You all may not be ready for this, but your kids are going to love it.
So yeah, because of that, now people are in companies and such are realizing, oh no, we can make a ton of money from merchandising with these characters if there's a story alignment for it. Now, going through the future for that one, we end up into the 80s. This is where the majority of all this happens. So, briefly, and I talked about this before in our animation, 100 Years of Animation retrospective when we got into the 80s for this. What happens is, for good or for ill, Ronald Reagan and Reaganomics end up pushing the policies so that way they I can't think of the word. They not decentralize. They basically make it so that way it's no longer as deregulation. That's the word I was looking for. So they deregulate a bunch of stuff for animation for it. Now, one of the big things that happen, and this is again for good or for ill, is that now you would have you could make a show that's specifically targeted for selling a product. And what they would do is that they would make a cartoon based upon, they would make a toy, create a cartoon based on that toy, and then pay, and to have that cartoon being aired, being placed on the air, put a little, give some advertisement space for that same toy, which means that they would make money off of the cartoon if it was doing well, and the toy itself if it sold well, all based around the ability to sell that toy. That's just what happened back then. And so the biggest and the first ones that we see about this is He-Man. He-Man is also swallowed up because of the issue with Star Wars. So here's some fun facts about Star Wars about Star Wars and its effect on literature at this point in time. Star Wars is a movie about, a guy in space who has to fight some kind of cruel, has to help fight some kind of cruel armada or evil like empire and help defeat it. The very, very, very dumbed down version of Star Wars.
Is there a war, you would say?
Yeah, that's what in the stars, I would also say.
How about that?
Because of this, there is a series of movies and TV shows and cartoons that are starting to be made and books that are basically Star Wars.
But also, Star Wars, at least A New Hope, is exactly, almost to a T, the hero's journey.
Oh, yeah. And so, like, Krull in the 80s was a kind of a Star Wars knockoff. There's also a variety of, like, there was a movie that was going to be called Battle of the Stars, I think it is, which is basically Star Wars, but not as good.
Star Battles.
I
made that up.
You could
Maybe
be right.
I didn't. Maybe that was a thing.
Fooled you. Maybe.
Can you be sure?
Can you be sure?
I did not research Star Battles because I tried to make it as a joke on the spot. So no research has gone into my joke.
Close. There's at least a Star Battleship Yamato.
Yeah.
Also, in anime and manga, there's also Star Wars knockoffs. Not to be confused of the manga version of Star Wars that you can get. That was actually made during this time.
Which I had. I had that old 80s Star Wars A New Hope manga.
Keep in mind, because this is before what happens with Disney and the mergers and stuff in the 2000 plus. So all of this is going right back to George Lucas for most of this stuff.
Making bank.
And he starts using that money to do a bunch of other projects, and I'll explain how that goes, because a very famous comic artist does a similar thing, but that's not until later. Now, so what happens is that there's all these knockoff Star Wars. So what this toy wanted is to make something that could feel like someone is manly and could be a hero, and they come up with He-Man in that case. I will say this, as far as He-Man characters, I honestly think their naming convention is very, very lazy.
I mean, He-Man.
She-Ra.
Wait, wasn't He-Man voiced by the Four Non-Blondes?
That'll happen later. Side note, that is still on my jams.
That's a good
It's
song.
incredible.
It is an incredible song.
I mean, Man-at-Arms is the best naming convention for any character based off an action figure ever.
I love it because the
Agreed.
Man-at-Arms is also a man at arms.
He is a man-at-arms. It's what he is.
Also, he has a man. He's a man with arms. Like he has more arms.
He do be having arms, though.
He got them arms.
He does one thing, and he is drilling
Man at
that to the ground.
arms, man with arms.
So with that, you start bumping into stuff. But He-Man's the starting point. Things are just going to go to town, and where we're all. And now that they've seen the success of He-Man, other toy companies and such start making their way into this and are doing this. This happens throughout the 80s, all over the place, and most of the 90s. You make a toy, you make a series for that said toy, and then you sell, and then you make commercials for that series about that toy, about also about making the show, and then you put it all together, and then profit.
I always like those commercials where they're like telling stories, like using the action figures, and it's like a super, like very 80s, like, and then, oh no, here comes blah blah blah. Well, I have so and so, and like, if you know that was, I mean, that probably led very much to telling, like making shows off it, because they're like, oh my god, we just told a really good story in 30 seconds. Let's make it 5 seasons.
I mean, that's how it kind of worked with Care Bears, and their Care Bears there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we even see this sort of thing carried forward into modern day, right?
Mhm.
If you look at Yu-Gi-Oh, if you look at a lot of other card game-based animes, if you look at other children's cartoons,
Mhm.
a lot of them, maybe not intentionally made just and only to sell toys, but Yu-Gi-Oh is basically a 20-minute advertisement for a trading card game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you like Celtic Guardian? I'm going to date myself here, but do you like Celtic Guardian? Buy this booster pack. Maybe he's in there. All the new Yu-Gi-Oh people are like, Celtic Guardian, whatever. Blue Eyes White Dragon? Not
God,
doing
I
anything for you
remember-
kids?
I remember when having a Blue Eyes White Dragon was like super cool.
Yeah.
I had one, and then
Dark
now
Magician? Flame Swordsman was my guy. I don't get me started on Yu-Gi-Oh. I will be here all night.
I looked directly at Yu-Gi-Oh and was like, "Hi," but then I ended up being more of a Digimon.
Yeah. Digimon's great, but once again,
Mhm.
designed. Although weirdly, the designs did not necessarily carry over, but Digimon designed to sell digital toys.
Yeah.
Oh, you know another one? I think it went this way. Monster Rancher.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Oh yeah,
was
Monster
like
Rancher was designed to sell the Monster Rancher game from the PlayStation series.
yeah.
How the hell, and I'm not the first and only person to make this observation, but I still do not understand how you're playing the game in the 90s, early 1000s. You've got the disc spinning. You open the disc tray, you remove the disc, you put in a CD, and it captures a monster that you then use in the game once you've put the disc back in. How does the game keep running? I still don't understand.
That's
Let me know in the
technical, isn't it?
comments.
I used to feel this. I very much was like this. Like, how does it do that? But if I put
Magic.
if I put in a Metallica CD, this one particular Metallica CD, I got the Obelisk. And if I put in this other CD, I would get the Fairy. And then I would mix them. I'd put one into hibernation when it got old. And then I would get the other one, train it up really high. And then I would make the best, like, Dark Pixie or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't understand how the PS1 could suspend itself long enough for me to put another disc in.
Truthfully, still don't. To this day, as an adult grown man, Still don't understand that. And that's fine. There's some magic in the world for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How, those wizards at Sony did it again.
I need to go get my I have done this because my brother back in the day my brother had Monster Rancher, and then he told me about out the CD thing, and I said, okay, I realize let me just grab some CDs for myself. I want to see this happen. Go off to grab CDs, realize I don't own musical CDs at this time for some stupid reason.
Oh, I mean, you could use
no.
DVDs and stuff, couldn't you?
No, this is PlayStation 1 when they had that effect.
Oh, that's
This was
right.
before DVDs existed.
Yeah.
That's right. Listen, I did exist in the 90s. I did know that. I just sometimes forget. And modern technology has spoiled us all.
God, it's come so far, you
Yeah.
know? Cassette tapes, 8 tracks, VHS, DVDs. Boom.
You know that what I did was I asked my sister for permission because I'm like, I need to borrow a bunch of your CDs. And she's like, why? I go, because I need to make monsters out of them. What? All right, I got to see where this is going. Fine, you can borrow the CDs. Wait, you're giving them back, right? Yeah. They're not, the CD's not going to get destroyed. I just need these things. Okay,
Trust me.
so
the PlayStation eats them
Mhm.
to sacrifice to the Monster Rancher, to me, and then you don't get the CD back, but you get a monster out of it.
dark magic. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I just
Monsters.
remembered I had to build a team with the Backstreet Boys first album, a Janet Jackson's greatest hits, and I think I had a soundtrack to something.
Wild.
Mhm.
I'm sure those who weren't around probably think we're crazy at this point. We had a video game system, and you raised monsters on it, and you put in CDs to raise different monsters. Like, it sounds absolutely insane.
And then I put it into cryo freeze so I could combine it with a different monster to get a cooler monster.
I'm pretty sure that this was like just a little before my time because I was born in 95, so like I was a 90s toddler.
Yeah.
There was someone that would try to revisit that formula with a QR code. It just did not do well.
Scanners
Scanners, that
with a Z.
that's because it's cool.
Yeah.
Was
Everything
that an
in
early 2000s thing? Because that sounds like an early 2000s
yeah,
thing.
late 90s, early 2000s. Everything had a Z
Mhm.
back in the day.
You
Kids
put a
map.
Z. That's how you know that it's cooler than the rest.
Scanners.
Now back to where we were going on that. Yeah, so yeah, Care Bears were made for Hasbro made Care Bears. Ironically, at the same time, they also made Transformers. And then there was this big. Back then, it was a big up and do for in the schoolyard. It's like if you're super cool, you wanted the Transformers that are coming out. If you were just wanted to be a chill person and didn't have much of a care in life, go with your Care Bear.
The Care Bears cared about you.
Mm-hmm. But the Transformers are fighting to save everyone, including Cybertron, maybe. Depending on which season you're in. Cybertron
No.
might be still there or not.
I don't trust them. They're more than meets the eye.
Care Bears save the world every day from their own feelings.
God, I need to be saved from my own feelings.
When the world needed them most, they vanished.
Are Care Bears the Avatar?
We need them now more than ever, do we
Yeah.
not?
I do.
Yeah.
I just remember watching the Care Bear movie back in the day, and I'm like, oh, there's a real villain in this?
Hold on, was it the first Care Bears movie, or was it Care Bears movie 2 where they were like babies?
I'm going to say it's the first one. I do not recall much of the Care Bear movie.
I mean,
I just remember that they have a Care Bear stare, and that thing it can nuke something with its face off.
you folks out
Yeah.
there who haven't watched the OG Care Bears movies, do yourself a favor and watch them. They are wildly entertaining. Like, we straight up, in the first Care Bears movie, we see a kid just straight up get possessed.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I love demonic possession in my Care Bears.
I forgot that was a thing. Like, it's weird. Some of these 80s movies and toy things have crazy plot lines to make this work. There's a movie that G.I. Joe had where they are literally fighting a drug kingpin at some point to stop cocaine. When did they have real situations like this? But there was also what is it? Yeah, Care Bears had someone get demonically
Yeah,
possessed.
you like
or
played
something.
around with shadow magic too much. And
And yet D&D is the problem.
Mhm.
D&D is of Satan.
Oh man, there's some crazier ones, but especially back then. I'm like, hey, someone's like, hey, do you remember Rescue Rangers? Oh yeah, that was a cute show. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, do you remember that one time when Gadget joined a cult? It was really weird. And then everybody else with who has just got glass-eyed all over and just staring at me like, you're crazy, Leo. But no, she joins a cult. That is a legit episode.
I don't remember that, but do you know what I do remember?
Yeah.
Chip and Dale!
Rescue Rangers!
Yes!
I regret nothing.
I know Transformers. Oh yeah, Transformers. No, big spoiler for this. But Transformers the movie, the actual movie called The Movie, the first one.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, Optimus Prime dies, and not like, oh, don't worry, he'll be back later.
Spoilers!
Gone.
This is a spoiler-heavy podcast.
Yeah, this is spoiler here podcast. There's a warning right at the beginning.
I literally don't care.
Yeah. You think Liz is gonna save you for this? No, Liz is not gonna save you.
Yeah, no, don't look at
No.
Liz. Don't even look at Liz.
Give me your
Yeah, Liz is not gonna stop
Transformers
this.
spoilers.
She's not gonna save you.
Give me your Transformers spoilers. I want them.
Yeah,
Optimus Prime
so-
dies.
But not just dies. That's the end of the movie.
Yep.
Gone. He dies. You go to his funeral, and we roll the credits.
And this is like an animated one. This isn't like
Oh, yeah.
Bay, right? Okay.
Long
Bay.
before Michael Bay.
Listen, I was
The
not
look
a
that you give,
Transformers.
dude, the look of
I was
just
not-
shame.
I was not a Transformers kid.
And that's fair.
That's fair.
I
There's
don't know where we are in the timeline.
you know-
We were in the 90s for a second.
You know, some people say that Michael Bay invented Transformers, and the world's been better ever since. The year was 2004.
Good for that, man.
The first Transformers movie
You
came
did the
out.
world a favor.
So there's a series of you ever out there called The Goldbergs.
2007, for the record. Just
What?
editing my joke. It was 2007, not 2004. My
Oh.
bad.
Do better.
Oh, that's the big problem. Not Liz saving everybody from not getting that spoiler.
Yeah, true. I have standards.
Anyway, so there's an episode of the show The Goldbergs where Adam Goldberg talks about the stuff that he had to deal with during the 80s randomly. Pretty entertaining show. There's one episode where he takes him and his grandfather go to see Transformers the movie, and he's like, "Oh, pumped and excited." And then he gets to the end of the movie where Optimus dies. He goes, "He's coming back, right? Right? He'll be back, right? Right?"
Technically, yes.
Yeah, but so that doesn't happen for a couple of years. They take a pause on the series, and then they come out in another series a couple of years later. So yeah, no, it destroys a bunch of children's dreams right there by killing off a hero.
I was just gonna say that sounds like dream smashing in the 80s.
Okay. Now we can't leave the 80s without talking about the monster hit of the 80s of this toy cartoon thing is spoken of as legend and is a high most companies dream to get. So back in the day, there's a little independent comic called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And not certain if you heard of it. If you haven't, somehow you have been under a rock on Mars for like 25 to 40
With the
years.
biker mice
From Mars?
from Mars.
So they didn't really have much of a toy line on it. They did.
They did. I
They
had biker mice from Mars toys.
Like I said, they did, but they're no turtles.
No, nobody's a turtle.
Lot of, much like Scooby-Doo, see our cartoon episode for more information on that. There's a lot of imitators. Street
Mhm.
Sharks, Biker Mice from Mars,
That back
The
biker mice
Battle
from Mars
Toads.
was the most original show on the planet, and I remember none of it.
I would say, when's the last time you watched an episode?
I'm gonna go watch it right now.
You 100% should. It will change, not for the better, but it will change your life.
Oh, wait. But Liz, be sure that you keep an eye out because there's 2 bikers mice from Mars that are out there.
I know. I remember my dad used to have bandanas that that had the biker mice from Mars on it.
Oh no, it's the same series, but there's a giant time gap to explain when they brought it back a second time.
Oh no,
There were at least 3 mice in that show.
No, 3 mice, 2 series, 1 Liz.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna binge watch it, and then I am going to demand a Biker Mice from Mars retrospective just so I can talk about how it's not as good as I remember.
I think we'll need to roll in a bunch of those types of shows.
At some point, we're going to talk about anthropomorphic characters. There's an episode I'm working on that. That's in the future.
You wait until I am done binging Biker Mice from Mars.
I think you've got time.
You got time. I'm not going to go back to Biker Mice from Mars anytime soon.
No, I will become the resident expert on it.
Do you want that job, though?
Yes, I just took it.
At the outset, yes.
As
Later
of right
on,
now, yeah.
might be some regret.
Where to watch Biker Mice from Mars? Full episodes, YouTube. Oh.
That's a good sign.
That's a good sign right there.
When no one is monetizing it, you know you succeeded.
No, okay, so there I found this. I found a YouTube channel. It has full episodes from Biker Mice from Mars. They're numbered like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. But I think this person worked in commercial breaks because it's like episodes 1, 2, 3 of a burger commercial that says donate to charity. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then a video on how to save playlists to YouTube. 9, 10, 11, 12, recycle and reuse plastic.
Yes,
like,
I'm sure this person has the legal right to be offering these YouTube videos.
It sounds legit.
Anyway,
I'm sorry. There are I'm sorry.
This person.
I need to. There's 83 video. Okay, there's 85 videos, but the last 2 is a 2.5-hour video on Five Nights at Freddy's in Minecraft, and then a 4-hour video called "We Cannot Take You With Us," and it just has 2 googly eyes and an alien.
That channel's gonna get taken down like the day after this podcast gets posted, and it's going to be all Liz's fault.
100% Liz's fault, and I was just thinking that same thing.
No! No way.
Yeah, and their handle is XX underscore.
Because XXX underscore. We can't mess with them. It's XXX underscore.
That's
and then
true.
whatever
It's
the stuff
hardcore.
is. Only the elites have
Oh, wait. So this playlist was made by this person, but the videos were uploaded by a bunch of other people.
that. Okay. Better.
Yeah.
Anyway, before Liz docks this poor guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ruins it for everyone else.
I can talk about it's a YouTube playlist. All anybody has to do is look for it. I'm not doing anything wrong.
And now whoever owns Biker Mice from Mars knows exactly where to look.
Yeah.
All right.
You just ratted this person out. You're like,
Leo,
hey,
edit.
the body's buried at 492 West Wisconsin Street. It's the 3rd floorboard, but I don't know where it could be, though. Don't go looking there. Whatever you do not go to this house.
You save those dead bodies for a Pokemon Go episode. What was it when that thing was hyped? The amount of stories of we found a body over here.
Hey, Liz, can I get the URL to that so I know where not to go? I don't want to go to this
Give me a second.
playlist
I will get that for you exactly.
about Biker Mice from Mars. I just needed to make sure I don't go there and watch every video on that playlist.
I was like, I'm going to see if the company is even, like, if they're even still around, because it's a particular company, and I Googled it, and then I found out who owns them. I Googled the company, and they're at WonderCon 2024. They are definitely still active.
What's that? Yeah, no, okay. I've just been made aware that we're getting a C&D from this company.
Of all the people I could have expected to get me a C&D.
Biker Mice from Mars.
Dude, a show that just, fell off the face of the earth and there is no way to watch it anywhere is Hamtaro, which is really weird because the company that made that show, I'm pretty sure they've been gone for, over a decade, but you cannot find anywhere on the internet to watch Hamtaro, and it's upsetting to me.
The amount of Hamtaro merch that exists also is just kind of weird. There's
Good
always
enough.
that one corner at that one con which has a Hamtaro merch of some sort.
I mean, I was a Hamtaro kid. I had all the plushies. I had the little Ham clubhouse dollhouse with all the little dolls. I had the illegally recorded VHSs that I would make my mom like record a Hamtaro marathon onto.
We here at GTP don't condone any illegal downloading or any sort of obfuscation of the law. We are firm, law-abiding citizens, despite what you may think of us.
At this time.
Yeah.
Okay, I've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole. And
Impossible.
apparently, Ryan Reynolds is trying to produce a Biker Mice from Mars revival. And
That sounds like it.
Yeah, and there are new action figures that have come out this year. But the company only owns the rights to the action figures. I gotta find who owns the rights to the show.
I mean, if anyone can do it, Ryan Reynolds can.
Hell yeah, he can. I'm on his phone plan. I will give him my Biker Mice money.
Oh man, I really hope that they ask Rob Paulson. By the way, Rob Paulson is both in Biker Mice from Mars and is the Teenage Mutant Turtles. At least 2 of the iterations of the Teenage Mutant.
For him, I love Rob Paulson.
He's great.
All right, I will get off the Biker Mice from Mars thing for now, but I fully expect an episode that I can go off on later.
Oh,
I will get that done. Any oozles. So yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the way that they worked is that there was an independent comic, and they were given an offer to by this executive this guy who was looking for different properties, and he saw the mass potential of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so one of the things is that they went through a bunch of negotiations for it, and it's with this company Playmates, and I think it's Playmates Toys is who does Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I want to double check that one real quick. Anyway, so with that, it's Playmates Toys. So with that, the idea was to make these toys for these action figures for it. So the thing is that the 2 creators, Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, had managed to negotiate. Keep in mind, they're still an independent comic, so they don't have the big clout, but they tried their best to negotiate a lot of different rights to keep for themselves, including creation rights. But they didn't have much in the way of the animation rights. By the way, if you're wondering, there are certain things that they still take out of this to put back into the original comics. My personal thing that I liked, and they hated, the fact that they color-coded the turtles. Because in the original Turtles, they're all black and white. And unless you happen to have a picture of them with their weapon in their hand, I couldn't tell the difference between Leonardo and Raphael because they literally drew them all the same.
Yeah, which is really kind of a cool way to go about it. No hate to the original comics. They're incredible. They're super good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the color coordination for animation and for toy line manufacturing changed the game on that. It made it so much easier to identify who was who and who you liked and which, one you kind of meshed with, even if the source material wasn't strictly followed for the old cartoon.
And because they had a weird thing, which is a creation right. So what that meant is that for them to make a new toy, they had to create a character for that toy and then later import that character from the toy to the cartoon, and then later import it from the cartoon to various other comics that were going in there. The weird thing about it is they don't keep making Turtles comics, and they start passing it around for it. Like, it's kind of weird because if you actually do the history on that, for as a big of an important comic book that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is, there's very few of them that are actually created by their original creators. They don't even beat out Stan Lee when he worked on Spider-Man originally. So these toys are being created. My favorite toy that's on there is Ace Duck that they made on a whim. And Ace Duck is an anthropomorphic duck who's also a pilot. But they didn't like him so much that the only time you see him on the cartoon is in the background of a scene when they have to put an image on a TV. You're relegated to the background's background. That's what you take the box.
I accept.
But like every single one of those characters that are on there, they drew the original art and the original creation for it. And then because they drew the original art, original creation, it gets the rights into that cartoon, and then they start making toys for this, and they go through it. The whole thing with the Turtles gets kind of murky, but it's kind of funny because this happens every time there's a new iteration of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They make another series of toys for it. Those toys will get integrated into the cartoon, and they bump into an interesting problem in the mid 2000s ones. I think it's 2008 when they do that cartoon. 05. Early 2000s. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was coming up as a cartoon, sponsored mostly by Fox. However, to do the cartoon, they allowed one of the creators to make, who I can't remember which one, but he did the writing for those episodes, and he's one of the lead producers on it, because he actually hated the 87 cartoon. The reason why he didn't like it is because the cartoon went into way too cartoony for the things that he wanted to. He understood why, he just didn't like it.
He's a hater.
Yeah, he's a hater of his of this thing. But luckily, he's the kind of hater's like, I'm mad about this. You gonna stop it? Nah. Let it go.
You can't stop cultural phenomena from happening.
So when he got into the other series of cartoons for that one, he would end up toys. One of the things that people were asking about is, when is Bebop and Rocksteady going to be on there? Bebop and Rocksteady is not in that series.
Nope.
He hated how the Bebop and Rocksteady was treated because they were supposed to be these tough thugs, but they were morons in the 87 series. So he just didn't put them in. There's an episode early on in season 1, which is a sweet tribute to Jack Kirby. So Jack Kirby, as a character, also has a small toy for himself for that one episode, but Bebop and Rocksteady, nah. And also, it's kind of weird to have Rob Paulsen play two completely different Turtles, because he's in the 2012 as well as, but now Donatello.
Well, who else are you gonna get?
Sean Astin, he plays Raph.
That's true. Sam Riegel plays Donnie.
Yep. So yeah, you got all these toys on there, but this whole phenomenon gets big because they have all the toys that are tied to that for it. With that, we bump into, like, the next big one I can think of off of that is My Little Pony, because Lord knows that just like unlike Turtles, they didn't have the epic 10-season run for their series. I think there's like a small set of cartoons, and then a generation, and then another generation, and then another generation, and then another generation. I think
It's a lot.
Friendship is Magic, what we know right now, is 5th generation? Yeah. Or something.
Yep, that's correct.
Oh, is it 5th? Yeah.
Yeah, and then they did a movie, which some people are calling, I think. Wait, is it Gen? Are we at Gen 5?
I think the current gen is Gen 5.
You're right. Yeah, Gen 4 is Friendship is Magic.
Yeah. Gen 4 is Friendship is Magic, and then it's either Gen 3 or Gen 2, but one of those is we don't talk about it. It is like half the animation has like dead eyes. It's terrible.
Same though.
Pretty sure that's the one that, like, they even make a joke about it in Friendship is Magic. Like, bet you can't make a face like this! And it, like, Pinky changes her face to the old art style.
That's the art style I currently identify with. I'm so tired today.
Oh man, do not look up Dead Eyes and MLP.
Why
you end up
would
getting
you?
Do not look
link
up
to...
anything with MLP.
That's true. But apparently there's a Fallout fanfic crossover with Friendship is Magic, and Dead Eyes is one of the horses.
Hell yeah, that's actually metal. That's so rad.
Man. Oh no, that's a whole Fallout Equestria wiki. I'm staying away from that one. But yeah, so MLP just ends up being like going through the motions, but they come back as different generations, and different gens will have such completely different art styles, and they make the toys to fit that art style too. which honestly is kind of neat. Unlike the Turtles, which they ended up going back into a retro form to get like the original die casting, the original stuff for it. So I think as far as episodes of a series goes, they have the same, but Turtles is 10 years in one animated stretch. MLP goes through 2 different iterations before they get there. I think Transformers is up to like 4. I don't even remember how many generations there are in Transformers at this point.
I mean, I think it depends on if you count like a lot of the side stuff and such. Like,
yeah,
so many.
And they will talk about this as generations for each section of their toys, and that's been kind of universal. So if we talk about Turtles as Gen 1, we talk about the original Playmates line of toys. But when we get to another set of toys, based upon the 2000s episodes, that's I think Gen 3 actually is what that is, because then there's the movie in between them. So we bump into these things where these toys are started, where stories and lines are starting to work their way into these toys. Now we're gonna have to talk about something that kind of, in the background, becomes a game changer for it. And when we come to these kind of toys, and this actually links towards, surprisingly, Todd McFarlane. So for those who don't know, who Todd
That's
McFarlane,
brother.
Hi, I'm here to tell you about Liz. Sometimes a joke will be so low hanging, she has no choice but to
Listen,
pick it up
I
and just grab it
It's so low
and present
hanging.
it to the world.
It's so low hanging. It is on the ground, and I'm too tired to do more than reach out for it.
Zombie Hand came back from a big con and went straight to this podcast episode, so you get to enjoy this little bits. Enjoy, fans and listeners. That being said, though, back to the subject matter at hand. So Todd McFarlane,
They're not related, just for the record.
Yeah,
I
they're
feel
not
that
related.
Needs to be explicitly stated. It wasn't covered. It needed to be said.
That sounds like back in the Console Wars, the first episode, where we have to give everyone a warning: don't put a sandwich inside a Nintendo or any of your consoles. We didn't used to have that warning. Ironically, both of these came from Liz.
Yeah,
how that
I was
happened?
like 4.
Not much has changed.
Any hoozle. So Todd McFarlane gained notoriety, especially in the mid to late 80s, from doing artwork for both Marvel and DC, but he wanted to stay independent. He has some of the most beautiful artwork designs because a lot of his artwork is very action-packed. If you want a good example as far as the character that he worked with early on back then, Venom. He is the main reason we have Venom, is Todd McFarlane's artwork.
Did Todd McFarlane do Spawn?
Yes, but that'll come a bit later.
Yeah.
So what happens is that
we had a big old Spawn print when I was growing up, and I just remember thinking I could read Todd McFarlane's signature in the corner.
it's kind of a thing. He hides his signature in different artworks somewhere, just on purpose.
That's fair.
But that's just him as an artist likes to do that. No, I believe he actually created Venom, of all things.
I try to hide my art a little, or my signature a little bit, so it's like you can find it, but it's not obtrusive on the design. But I've had my art stolen.
Nope. Venom. Eddie Brock. He was one of the creators of Venom. So
Topher Grace.
No, he didn't create Topher Grace.
Yeah, they're also not related.
Yeah.
I don't think, at least.
Didn't Topher Grace play Venom?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the movies.
I'm sorry.
20 years after Venom was created.
I know. No, I know. That's my joke. That's my joke.
I love it because even in the Wikipedia, they credit Venom as being played by Tom Hardy, but not Topher Grace.
Oh, hey, Parker.
Anyway, no, okay, so anyway, Venom is his big creation. Now, this is actually important. In these, back then, for the comic series.
It's a bold claim to claim that Venom is his big creation when Spawn is right there. I know what you meant, but it's not what you said, and I just needed to say something.
Okay, at this time, in the 80s,
thank you.
His big creation is Venom, but he also helped create a bunch of other characters. Now, the reason why this is important to note is back in, and this is actually still true for a larger bit of different comic book companies. Let's say you create a character for that comic book, for whatever story, doesn't matter. You get credited as being the creator, but you don't get creation rights. That falls to the company that it's tied to. So even though he created Venom, it's just listed as being part of Marvel, so he doesn't get any rights for that, just notoriety for it.
One point of order before we get too crazy and you have to do a whole episode explaining something we might be incorrect on. It looks like, according to what my brief internet search could find, according to, this is on Wikipedia, but I found it a couple other places. Original idea of a new costume for Spider-Man that would later become the character Venom was conceived by the Marvel Comics reader, a Marvel Comics reader from Norridge, Illinois, named Randy Schuler in 1982. Jim Shooter, Marvel's editor-in-chief at the time, sent Schuler a letter acknowledging Marvel's interest in the idea, which they ended up purchasing from him for $220.
Yeah, so I guess I'll have to do a quick explanation for it. When the character is created for a comic book, it's created in basically two styles. The person who came up with the idea and wrote it, and the person who actually put it on paper and drew the character. This is a big issue when we bump into Bill Finger, who is famous for having done the art creation of Batman, the way it looks, the way it is. However, for years and years and years, the creditation for that is tied to Bob Kane, who wrote the character for it. Now, this is a big hubbub, and it divides people on why these are things that come up. Stan Lee gets always tries his best to make sure he shares credit with creation, but that is one of the reasons why Jack Kirby stopped working with Marvel, because Jack Kirby drew all the art for a lot of these characters, but he's like, no, I created it because I put the pen to the paper for it, even though Stan Lee is the writer who wrote the character in existence for it. And
yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not saying that he didn't create Venom. I'm not saying that Todd McFarlane didn't have a hand in it. I just wanted it to be clear there is some more to it than just that.
Yeah, so there is more to it to that, and that's where we get into this thing. If you wrote it, did you create it? If you just came up with the idea for it, but we put it on paper, did you create it?
It seems like that would be like a co-creation sort of thing, because
they're usually co-created.
If somebody comes to me and says, I have a character who's a blonde bard, and then I come up with the design based off of that, they came to me and said, this is my character, and they gave me, I don't know, the personality and the backstory and all the things, but their description was blonde bard, and I created the design of the character and was like, okay, this is my blonde bard's iconic, or your blonde bard's iconic look. We technically co-created it because I made the design, but the other person did the character itself.
Right. Now, the reason why Todd McFarlane gets such a big creation credit is just because the storyline he was writing happened to be the first storyline that in Spider-Man 300 when Venom starts showing up. So he wasn't just the artist for artist's sake, he's also the writer as well. And so that's why he gets the large creation for it. It's kind of like how you can go the opposite direction. Another comic book artist creation is Rob Liefeld, whose his famous creation is Deadpool. But Deadpool, the way we know it now, is nothing like what Deadpool was when he first came around. He was basically just a big action star and not nearly as creative of a character. But so the reason why we bring this up is that he and a bunch of other comic artists wanted more creative freedom for this, so they all left and created an independent comic company called Image, I believe is what they were. So Image had things like Savage Dragon, and but the big one for that is Spawn. And Spawn works like gangbusters. Now, and there's interviews to back this up. So what happens is Todd McFarlane comes up with the idea of 4 pillars to his house, which is his idea of what to do with Spawn. It was he would write the comics and draw the comics. That's pillar 1. Pillar 2 was going to move those comics and sell the rights to it and help produce things for video games for it, which does work out, like the Spawn video game, which was pretty popular for the SNES and the for Super Nintendo when that came out. Then the third pillar was going to be with films. And that was when we got the 90s Spawn movie. And the fourth pillar was going to be animation, which is the Spawn cartoon that got put on, I believe, HBO for that. And so he bases all of these around there. However, later he decided to tie the film and the cartoon together, and he changed one of the pillars to being merchandising toys. Now, if you've ever bought a McFarlane toy, those are extremely well detailed and well graphic.
Yeah,
for it.
they are.
In fact, it's so well detailed. What happened is McFarlane Toys got into a place where they got the rights to go back and check out movie characters and animated characters and such and turn them into that. There was a period of time that really big cosplayers back in the 90s would go out and find a McFarlane toy because you had a 360-degree look for that, and you could model it off the toy, which is just better for you for modeling purposes than to just try to get the images from wherever. From that VHS that Tristan has. But yeah, so like McFarlane would create characters also that are from the toys and import them into Spawn. But it's the details to those toys which spell it out for it. And it's he made tons and tons of money for that. But this also stepped up the game for other toy makers to, if they make other characters like that and to get those licensing, and started making them into higher quality and higher prestige for that because of this. So yeah, I had to take a side trip with Todd McFarlane. Didn't see that one coming, but it ended up popping up at some point. But we bump into other dolls, and the weirdest one that came around from starting in the 90s is the American Girl dolls series.
Yeah. I had an American Girl doll growing up named Beth because my name's Elizabeth.
Hmm.
Nailed it. I forgot what Beth's backstory is. I got into all the American Girl dolls backstories. I'm like, what's this all about? I want somebody to make a fanfic with Molly going around, because her big thing was during World War II, and Molly going up and taking on, secret Nazi scum and dropping them down.
Yeah.
And teaming up with the other American Girl doll, which is, I forget her name, but she is Polynesian from Hawaii, and her experience is having to deal with the aftermath and such of Pearl Harbor.
Oh, I always liked the Native American one. I don't remember
Kaya?
her name or her.
Kaya.
Yeah. I always really liked her. I thought that she was just beautiful.
So there's some like really interesting backstory behind Kaya's doll in particular, like, because as a huge American Girl fan, I am here to tell you that American Girl does not fuck around when they come to their research. I forget which tribe exactly it was, but American Girl consulted with a Native American tribe for years while they were like putting together the character of Kaya and her lore, and she is the only American Girl doll with a face sculpt where the mouth is closed, because in Kaya's culture, showing your teeth is considered rude and disrespectful.
Yeah, I remember they, like, that was one of the things that they were really, like, respected for and, like, praised for, was that they really, like, went the extra mile to make sure that they were being accurate to the time period and the culture and, like, the things that they were going through. And, just, it feels like that's something you didn't see very often, especially in like the 90s.
I've talked about this with Leo before, because anyone who's been keeping up with American Girl knows that their newest historical characters, and nothing has ever aged me more than this, it's a pair of twins who grew up in the 90s. So I'm like, I am old enough to be an American Girl historical character, and I don't like that one bit.
Oh, also, I think that they got it easier than everybody else. I mean, they had to deal with the
their historical event was the Y2K scare.
I imagine Y2K and 9/11 were probably...
No, that 9/11 won't start until the 2000s. We haven't gotten that American Girl doll yet.
No, I know, but I mean, 9/11 was 2001. Like, people who were born in the 2000s will not.
Correct.
That won't hit something. That won't hit hard for them.
I do find it a bit interesting too, because the historical precedent is typically 50 years. So if that makes you feel any better, Tristan, you've got some more time before you're historically eligible for being a historical American Girl doll.
But no, like they're like some of their like bedroom sets and stuff. Like they have those like purple inflatable chairs that every girl had in their room in the 90s. And they even have, it's like a Pizza Hut. It's a official Pizza Hut bucket kit that has like the little personal pan pizza and the Pizza Hut cup and the little like bucket, pizza coupon. And I was like, get out of here. Like, stop coming for me like this.
Never forget what they've taken from us.
I would like that one to also have like a Blockbuster movie pass and jelly bracelets.
They have a little like sleepover set, and I think they actually do have like, I think it's a play on words because they can't say Blockbuster, but they have a little Blockbuster VHS. Or on their computer, they have a little like computer desk. The computer screen is literally loaded up to AOL.
Yes. God, I love that.
I do give it credit for like their historical. Surprisingly, I have to give these guys credit for their historical accuracy. Like I think it's Kit, who's the Great Depression, has some lousy or lousier or less colorful clothes in comparison to everybody else. But again, Great Depression.
Yeah,
that's the style at the time. If you're wondering how weird it was, their hot dogs were considered at that point a high luxury food plating that you can have.
Great Depression, you had to do what you like, make do with what you could. And there's a, not to make this like historical cast, but there is I think his name is Brian D. Hollis. He's a chef. He's not even actually a chef. He just found like a recipe book from the Great Depression and started doing like TikToks and short Facebook videos of him making these various ones, or maybe not like specifically from the Great Depression. I think he may have found like his grandmother's or great grandmother's cookbook from like the like 20s, 30s, 40s, and then he started making them, and he was making like cakes and stuff from the Great Depression, and as he's going, he's talking about like I mean, in the like 2 minutes that he has to make the videos for these, so he's like 2 eggies, like that guy. I'm sure people have known him. He's like, during the Great Depression, we didn't have anything, so we had to substitute flour with this thing or whatever, and it's like, it's not good. A lot of these, he's like, this tastes like sadness, but like it's Great Depression food, and he like understands that that's why,
Yeah. You work with what you got.
Yeah, I really like watching him. He has longer form videos too, but his short ones, he's very funny.
Now, with that, different trends start copying into getting story-based things coming into their toy making thing. This is about the time when Bionicle becomes a thing, and Lego and Ninjago, and just Lego has an intricate background story for my Legos and for those, and they have films and movies and DVDs for that. And I might be skipping around for this one. There's been other ones that are like that, but the one that sticks most into my mind, which would be about 2000s-ish or so, is Monster High. Mm-hmm. And again, much like the American Girl dolls, I'm like, I am super interested in this for the reference, not the doll itself. Oh, that looks cute. Isn't that supposed to be like Cleo? Like, isn't that supposed to be like not Cleo, which is the Pharaoh? Yeah, the Mummy. And like, ooh, wait, that one's the Phantom of the Opera. Why can't I remember?
Operetta.
Leo, yeah. I just want you to note, none of us are going to judge you if you're into any of these things. That's totally fair.
I think Monster High. I haven't gotten like into Monster High, but I think they're so neat.
They're really cool.
The
They are.
designs are
I'm
so
the resident
cool.
Monster High expert here. That's why Leo brought me on the podcast for this episode in particular, and I've like made him watch a couple of the Monster High movies with me.
So all the Monster High characters have, well, or at least most of them have some kind of weird powers because, again, monsters, right? Although I gotta give it up to them, their real powers is the fact that they can walk, they don't trip over like 10-inch heels that everyone has to wear.
No, like literally, there's in one of the movies, Boo York, they're literally parkouring like over a bunch of skyscrapers, you know, to try to like get to the concert in time. But they're doing this in like 6-inch heels. I'm like, that's the most unrealistic part of the Monster High universe. Not that these monsters exist, but that they can parkour in 6-inch heels.
Those would be my ankles snapping in half. Yeah, but you know what? The Bratz dolls walked so that Monster High could run.
That is true.
Platform 6-inch heels.
I don't remember if the Bratz dolls have nearly as intricate of a backstory with them. I think they
No.
were just fun dolls.
They were just Bratz dolls. They were fashion. They were makeup. They were popular. You know, it was just meant to be something different from like Barbie and very different faces. So there is a Bratz movie.
I know the fashion dolls, like, there was at least one famous fashion doll that existed before Barbie, but I'm pretty sure Barbie is what really put fashion dolls on the map. I don't know. I can't think of any, like, really iconic fashion dolls other than Barbie until Bratz were introduced.
Yeah, and Bratz really like I mean, if it's sort of on topic, there were like Bratz shows and movies and such, and not the bad live action movie, but there, if you ever want to find the person doing the fake Batman voice over the Bratz doll scene where they're making up, it's one of my favorite things because in this Batman Christian Bale voice, one of the girls goes, "I miss my girls." It's like my favorite.
No,
thing
for all the homies out there, if you're looking for a fun way to spend your Friday night, grab a couple beers and watch Bratz Rock Angels. That movie is beyond chaotic.
It's so, the Bratz movies, like the animated ones, are like, they're kind of like dumb fun. Like, yeah, get a couple drinks in you or something and just go have some dumb fun with the Bratz movies. Or watch Curtis Connor watch the Bratz movies, because that's funny too.
But no, when Leo was talking about how, you know, on the topic of Monster High and how what kind of interested him about it was, oh, like each character is a reference to a famous, you know, monster from stories, and that's gonna lead me to, like, I could talk about Monster High forever, but what I'm gonna talk about is how Mattel kind of led the first generation of Monster High to its own downfall, because back in, it was like 2014, Monster High was still doing like really good. And because it was so successful, Mattel was kind of giving all of its attention to Monster High, but at the time they had the rights to the Disney princess dolls. And those were kind of starting to get neglected because Mattel was pushing Monster High so much. So Disney was kind of irked by this. But what really pushed Disney over the edge was when Mattel decided to do kind of a spin-off series of Monster High called Ever After High, which is the same idea, but it's the children of famous fairy tale characters. And that pissed the mouse off. Like, that was when Disney was like, alright, you know what? We are giving Disney Princess to Hasbro. Also, we're taking your idea and we're doing our own version of it. And that's how Descendants came to be. And so Descendants ended up doing better than Ever After High, and Ever After High ended up getting canceled. And now Mattel was kind of, you know, in the doghouse because Monster High's target audience was always like preteen age. But now, without either Ever After High or Disney Princess, they didn't have a doll line to appeal to their kind of younger demographic. So they were like, all right, we're going to rebrand Monster High to make it a little more appealing to a younger audience. And that's when Monster High Gen 2 comes in. And that's the gen that we don't talk about. That was a bad time for Monster High fans. Basically, they wanted to make the dolls less, like, scary and edgy looking, so they gave them these, like, big doe eyes and perma smiles, and they were overall just cheaper dolls. Like, they took away a lot of the articulation because these were meant to be played with by, like, younger children, and the clothes were just cheaper and really poorly designed. That was a bad time. That was the dark ages of Monster High.
The edginess feels like that's also part of what makes it appeals to just like a different like subset of people who enjoy dolls.
Mm-hmm.
Like taking away like that edginess and like the like the darker aesthetic and stuff. Like, all right, way to alienate your goths.
Exactly. Like, I unfortunately got into Monster High. It was right when Gen 1 was on its way out the door. But I'm like, man, these are the kinds of dolls that my little emo middle school self would have loved. Yeah, and there was even a Monster High and Ever After High. There was a crossover movie that it was in production. But once Ever After High got canned, so did the crossover movie. And they even had a new character planned for this movie that, had the movie come to fruition, we would have got a doll of her. And we never did. And she was this really cute kitsune girl named Yuna. And, like, the folks at home can look her up. Like, she would have been the most beautiful doll ever. And they took that from us. All because Mattel pissed off the mouse.
Never forget, as Dade says. What did they take from?
Gotta keep it in mind, man.
Mm-hmm. I always wonder with Monster High dolls, how far back do they need to get, like, the monster. Like, it's not gonna be... Monster High dolls are always gonna be about monsters, so I don't think we'll have the Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees one for a while.
She's so cute.
I know.
The Kitsune?
Yeah, she's so cute. She just has pretty hair and her little 9 tails, and
I mean,
I love her. I'm gonna draw her.
But for what Leo was just saying, it's not too far-fetched as you might think, because Monster High they have a line of dolls that they call Skelector dolls, which are collector dolls that are basically like famous horror movie characters in the style of a Monster High doll. Like, they've done like Frankenstein's monster and Bride of Frankenstein. They've done like Chucky and Tiffany. They've done Elvira. They're working on a Hocus Pocus 3-pack. They've done like Nightmare Before Christmas. So they've even done the Shining twins. So it's possible that we'll get Monster High Michael Myers.
It does kind of remind me. Okay, put it away. Put the ass away, Liz. Jesus. We can only stand so much. It's too sexy.
We can only stand so much.
The sticker sheet that we're not allowed to show that Liz just showed us does remind me of a figure line.
Is it the Bishojo horror?
It is the Bishojo.
I got Leo the Evil Dead.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
that's what that line is called? Okay,
The
so
Bishoujo was so a friend of mine was actually downsizing his horror collection, which I was so shocked by. But I was like, anything you have that's Evil Dead, show me, because my roommate, it's his favorite series ever. And I managed to snag Leo like a photo, like an actual photo that had been taken from the set of two of the actors like hanging out, and there's like some prints, and I managed to snag him the Bishoujo Ash, which was like, that was possibly one of the best or was that was a Christmas / birthday thing, because it cost a lot, but it was worth it because Leo almost cried.
So real quick, let's explain the Bishoujo line real fast of what that is for people who don't know what that means.
Yeah, sorry. Bishoujo was like pretty girl. It's pretty girl. It's the horror icons as beautiful women, sexy women.
Mm-hmm. And it's basically horror icons done as pretty anime girls at the same time. The reason why I was so excited about the Army of Darkness one, the Ash one, and that's like Evil Dead Ash, it's one of the rarest ones to find is the Ash one. They still have those lines going out, and they're still looks like they're making them today. But it's a very unique art style for that, but they could do it. They kind of branched out a bit. Looks like Star Trek has Uhura as one of those now. They have Spider-Gwen, but it looks like the Spider-Gwen version kind of, out of all the other adjusted artwork, kind of phoned it in. Like, they just took Spider-Gwen, in-costume Spider-Gwen.
So Kotobukiya is the company that makes them. They started the line back, I believe, in 2013, maybe 2014, and it goes forward all the way to today. And they do have properties ranging from horror, as was mentioned, Transformers, Star Trek, Marvel, popular video game franchises like The Witcher, Darkstalkers, which is both an anime and you might know from a fighting game.
Tekken is on there.
Tekken, SNK, pretty much My Little Pony. So a lot of the properties that we've already talked about here in this episode, G.I. Joe, I believe they also have a couple. They also have these pretty girl versions, which are a little bit divisive to some people in the communities. I know I've got a couple of friends who are into Transformers who don't super care for it because it's like they're pretty ladies. They're not robots at all. It's like, yeah, I mean, okay, fair enough, I guess. This isn't for you. That's fine. But yeah, so pretty much a lot of the brands that we've talked about thus far have their own version of these pretty lady anime figures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're all over the place. Like, there's DC's characters on there are all
Mass Effect, I think Tally's got one.
They have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre for Leatherface, which that is not Leatherface at all. Not even close.
You don't know Leatherface.
Not personally.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a look, definitely. If you want to see something that looks like that Data's trying to convince me is Leatherface, and as far as I can tell, the only way I can tell that's Leatherface is the chainsaw and the fact that they wrote the name on there. Look up Leatherface for this. You'll see what I'm talking about.
All I'm saying is she could kill me with a chainsaw. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
actually, that's true. Anybody can kill you with a chainsaw, really.
Well, yeah, but like she especially. Did you click through the photos though, Leo? There is a picture of her wearing a leather face.
Hang on. No. Yes. Found it. But this is also in that weird vein of like McFarlane Toys, where they're super detailed for those toys on there.
Very detailed indeed.
Speaking of video games,
by the way, just to warn our viewers before you go and if you've made it this far, maybe too late already, but
yeah.
If you go and look at these, they are a little suggestive.
Mm-hmm.
So just viewer discretion may be necessary. They're not like too lewd. They are a little lewd.
Mm-hmm. Well,
how do we describe this? They are
definitely adult oriented.
Yeah, for adult collectors, but they're not like naked.
Mm-mm. I mean,
They're scantily clothed, but they're still clothed.
Yeah. Like Sniper Wolf.
Yeah, well, that's her normally too, right?
Yeah, that's the problem with that one. That is.
I don't know how she moves in a jumpsuit that tight. That's all I'm gonna say.
But yeah, the Ash one. If you've seen Ash from Evil Dead 2, cut up with the shirt is shredded, pants is barely holding on. Yeah, they didn't forget about that part for the shoujo. That's the part that made it in. Also, they remembered the chainsaw, which makes. And honestly, this is the dumbest thing, but this is me as a huge Evil Dead fan, that they keep the chainsaw on the proper arm.
Well, of course, that's got to be correct. Like,
you'll be surprised how many artists, and even there's a toy line that wanted to do a copy of it, but they put the saw on the wrong arm.
It's just about standards.
Mm-hmm. Standards. You got to have standards. Now, if we're wondering why we're talking about these toys for it and why it's a big thing, sometimes the toy not selling can lead to some detrimental things in the fandom. Probably the worst incident for that is Young Justice. Young Justice as a show, amazing. They took Adult Thieves, they ran with it. It was a great cartoon, but their toy sales lines were very, very low. And that low toys line sales is what originally led it to being canceled out before they could finish the series. And I believe, and until HBO Max, and now Max, ended up picking up and taking over it. I don't think that I think they're in a hiatus status. Like, they haven't fully said that they're like cancel such and they'll come back later at some point, which is a new trend for a lot of cartoons where they're like, we're taking a break for like a year and a half and then coming back. Has Been Hotel, the one before that. Actually, no, Has Been Hotel, the latest thing that coming out with on Amazon Prime, which I'm pretty certain some people are going to hop on right when they're making those the toys and figures for that.
Are they making figures for that? I hadn't heard.
I don't. At first, I was going to say it would be a dumb idea not to, but I bumped into the problem with Hades where they took almost a year, like years before they actually came up with a merchandise line. And who doesn't want a cuddly Cerberus with them?
Yeah, no, and I know for both Has Been and Hell of a Boss, both those series do have a protracted time where they created the pilot, they created the first episode, and then it was a while before the next one came out, or in this case, a while before Amazon picked them up. Yeah, it is interesting that you would think that for animation they would want to jump on that.
VivziePop, the creator, she because she sells like official Hell of a Boss merch. Like, she has like t-shirts and stuff with all the Hell of a Boss characters, but she doesn't really have any Has Been Hotel merch, and I think part of that has to do with like copyright stuff, since now she's kind of sharing copyright to her IP with Amazon.
Which makes sense. It's sort of like how do I want to put it? It's kind of the good and the bad. Because he's now working with Amazon, didn't they have to announce, yeah, no guys, the next season is being created. Don't worry. I can work on this now. But, you know, you have to give up some rights to continue your work is sort of the thing for that. Whether and how you decide how the creator decides to do that is kind of it'll always sort of vary on which it is. Who's the guy who did The Witcher who tried to backtrack on that?
Andre something. I don't remember how to say his name.
Yeah.
He
like famously see if you can find his name real quick. But what happens the guy who created
Andre
The Witcher
something and but hang on, it's gonna take me like 2 seconds.
All right.
Okay, I think it's Andre, but it's spelled Andrzej Sapkowski.
Andres?
I'd be like Andrzej Sapkowski.
Okay.
Is he Polish? Or...
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry if we butchered the name. We're trying our best.
Correct us in the comments.
Yeah. No, with phonetics. Don't just copy and paste the name. That's not gonna help. That's how we got into this problem in the first place.
How to pronounce Andrzej? Listen. How to pronounce it is Polish.
All right. Anyway, moving on.
Well, it's a mix between Andre and Ange. So.
Huh. Anyway, so what happened was that he wrote the Witcher series, which is a series of books. I think is how the Witcher started originally, and he gave up the company I wanted to make him decided, okay, we'll let you do that, but we need to we want to get the rights to do the Witcher series, and we can pay you for the rights for it if we get the full rights to do it, but we are going to pay you for everything up front. Now, as an author and the creator, kind of the options.
I think it was more like he was like given the option because they were like, we really want to make a Witcher video game, but we need to get the rights from you. And he laughed, thinking that nobody was ever going to make anything good. Like no video game was going to come out of it that was going to be good. So he sold the rights to CD Projekt Red, I believe. It's who made the first two games. And it like kind of didn't, but he was like, no, just pay me outright. You're not going to make enough for me to ever get royalties. Like, there's not going to be royalties to get because it's not going to sell. And so they gave him a bunch of money up front. And then when Witcher 3 came out, and then and that one's like huge. And then when the TV series came out, and that was huge, he got really annoyed and was like, well, you owe me a ton of money. Like this is my series. And they're like, we paid you up front per your request.
Yeah, and that's...
He didn't expect anything he didn't think that it would be good in any other medium, and so he was like, fine, suckers. And they were like, anyway, we made this super popular video game series, and now it's a really popular TV series.
That's just sometimes that's a risk you make. But then it's also a risk because if you give somebody the IP rights and nothing happens about it, you might miss out on everything else, and that's always the sort of choices of things on that.
He had a point. Like if he didn't think anything good was going to come of it, then sure, get a bunch of money up front and don't worry about royalties down the road. But he decided to start complaining when maybe I shouldn't be quite so like. Maybe he wasn't complaining, but he did start saying that CD Projekt Red owed him money, and they were like, sure don't.
But yeah, no, that's the thing on that, especially with like Has Been Hotel. Like the show is fantastic, but they had to. But if you're going to get a toy line from that, it's going to be a while because of who holds the rights and where things are going to go into and how that all works out. It's unfortunately gone are the days of where we have situations like the Turtles or He-Man or such, where the toy line is created before the series. More times now than not, now it's they test the waters with the series and then put that in, or they have a fully established toy line like in Monster High, then make a series for that. So it's either already established and then they make it, or they go backtrack for it. But that's about it. There's some weirder ones that are out there, and like Amiibos for Smash Brothers. Well, Amiibos is based literally on the trophy set that you can get in Smash Brothers before the Amiibos were made, and they're like, "Hey, why don't we do something with this?" And some people have different collections of Amiibos now, and I think Amiibos do other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on the game and the functionality built into the chipset, yeah, they do.
Mm-hmm. Most of the time, I just see collectors like to collect them for it, and a lot of these toys and things are great for collectors.
I have a bunch that I'll use in Fire Emblem, and it'll give me items. That's about. Yeah. Other than that, I just have a bunch of them on display on my shelf right here.
That's about all I've got for that. But yeah, that's sort of the general take of these. Sometimes the stories are created for the toys. Sometimes the toys spawn off the story lines for it. But we have these action figures and things that are on like based upon just years and years of lore. Barbie now has its own movie, and which is Gangbusters, and which is the first time I remember that Alan was a thing.
Can't believe you forgot Alan.
Which is such an Alan thing to forget about Alan.
Justice for Alan.
Now, keep in mind, they wants justice for Alan, but nobody wants Midge.
Wow.
What's wrong with Midge?
It's even in the song. Hey, Midge.
Never mind.
If you've seen the movie, you know what's going on with Midge, and it's hilarious.
Oh, Midge. Oh my god, I thought we discontinued you.
It was a choice.
It was
It was a simpler time.
Okay, so that being said, I've got.
I have one more.
Yeah, go for it.
So it was actually a little bit of an older one that I didn't. I feel like we touched on, but didn't really talk too much about.
Mhm.
It was called Biker Mice from Mars.
Fucking perfect.
Although, make sure you're getting the one with the actual bike that that you can jump very much vis-a-vis like the Evel Knievel cycle.
Well, yeah, there is no other bike for the mice to Mars.
To Mars too.
You good? You struggling there with that?
I got there.
Get there. Maybe you need more biker mice from Mars.
I do have a whole playlist here. Let me give the URL of this.
In this episode of Gaming Theater, Liz docs an entire YouTube channel.
In this episode of Gaming Theater Doxes.
Look, all right, we can't talk about biker mice from Mars without talking about the tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills. All right,
That is a thing,
it is a thing.
and does have a toy line.
It does have a toy line.
In fact, there's a whole series of issues that we bump into with Saban alone. Saban is a company that ends up doing weird things to try to. The story of how Mighty Morphin Power Rangers gets on the air is ridiculous, but hilarious. Here's the short end of it. Hey, Fox, can I get my show Mighty Morphin Power Rangers I want to make? And here's Fox coming up going, hey man, you've been bugging us since the 80s about this. So we're not gonna do it. What if, hear me out, I heard about a thing called X-Men you're working on? Yeah, but we need this stuff for production. Sold. You let me have my show, I will do everything. And that's what happens to the first season of X-Men, is entirely pre-produced on this because of Saban wanting to get Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now, why is that important? It's not. But it is the main reason why the theme song is so lit, because the guy who wrote the theme song for X-Men happens to be right there working for Saban at that time. And they told him, make a theme song. He said, okay. Also, fun fact, for Marvel and DC, which now let me bring it back around, have been making toys like this for their junctions for years and years and years for it. So it being animated is really the new thing for it. Oh, I remember, like, you were the legit kid if you actually got your hands on the Blackbird.
Yeah, I never had that.
I knew one person who had the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier. The thing is ridiculously huge.
Way too big.
It's too big. So before we let this out, I want to make sure that we got through it. If you just wanted to deep dive, which is a weird thing to say, deep dive lore on one of these toy lines, or a toy line we haven't talked about this episode, which one would you do?
Biker Mice from Mars.
Which one besides Biker? Well, you know what? That's Liz's pick. Liz sticks with Biker Mice from Mars.
Listen, I used to have the toys when I was growing up, okay?
I gotta give it to her. She sticks to her guns.
I mean, I had Starscream.
Alan Wake and Biker Mice from Mars are apparently just my thing.
You know? That's fair.
Didn't see that coming. Well, since Liz already went straight for Biker Mice from Mars, how about you, Dave?
Well, I was gonna say Biker Mice from Mars.
That's my series. Get off.
Sorry, since that's already been chosen, I suppose it's not necessarily one specific toy line, in that it's not like G.I. Joe or Turtles or Transformers, but one that I really enjoy is one that comes out of Japan, and they've got a bunch of different properties. It's the SH Figuarts line.
Oh.
And so it's a they have Dragon Ball Z. They've got Final Fantasy. I think they have Final Fantasy. That might be Bring Arts, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Figure Arts definitely has Dragon Ball Z. They've got Kamen Rider, tokusatsu genres, Power Rangers. Pretty much a lot of the popular Western shows that we get from Japan, or properties that we get from Japan. They've got a bunch of these. I don't want to call them ball jointed dolls because I feel like that's a loaded term, but these action figures with lots of articulation.
Yeah.
They typically come with different accessories, different Sailor Moon is one of the ones that they did, now that I'm remembering, my brain's working. So I just think that the SH Figure Arts line is actually really interesting, and I like the idea of having so many brands under one umbrella. Because like you can, much like with Nendoroids, which is another Japanese toy line,
So, yeah.
you can kind of mix and match the accessories and things as long as there's the requisite, I don't want to say holes, but holes. Places to attach these accessories, so you could have, Hatsune Miku with Trunks' sword from Dragon Ball Z, like,
Yes.
or whatever. You can just kind of get crazy with it.
What are you doing? Messing with my own fanfic? That's what that is.
Yeah. That's kind of remind me. The reason why I like the figure art line so much, other than like the details and the articulation, which is all really cool, is that you can it does kind of like bring me back to my Halcyon days of like playing with toys, where like I had a Stormtrooper and I had a Ninja Turtle, and it didn't matter that like there's no possible world in which these two characters would meet. That didn't matter when I was a kid. It was like, here you go, Duke's up. Raphael's taking on Stormtrooper 47, but he's like a badass.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I really like that idea of like kind of being reminded of that like innocence and being like, yeah, Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball, that kind of makes sense. But Power Rangers and Dragon Ball, Power Rangers and Sailor Moon, actually Power Rangers and Sailor Moon does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Sailor Moon's a tokusatsu. Fight me. But yeah, who would win? Tommy Oliver or Trunks? Let's find out. Probably not. But
Probably
maybe.
not.
Yeah,
But maybe.
probably
But
actually
maybe.
be Trunks, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying no. I'm not going to put that out
He's
there.
fighting literal children. But no, like I don't know. I think that line's really cool, and I'm a big fan of it. So that's my choice.
All right. Now, Tris, what about you?
I mean, while Care Bears and American Girl are two big ones for me, I think I'm gonna have to go with Monster High, since that's literally why Leo brought me on for this episode. This is literally how he approached me about this. Like, Tristan, I know I'm gonna regret this, but I need your expertise on Monster High.
How dare you, sir? They are a valuable member of this community, and we are lucky to have their expertise.
None regrets.
No regrets on that. But yeah, no, it was funny because I'm sitting there going through a bunch of Monster High. Ooh, I know the lore on that one. I know the lore on that one. And then a random thought popped in my head. Hey, buddy, do you think there'll be an Invisible Man Monster High character? Or is that just we're phoning it in on this character?
What is this, My Hero?
My Hero, yeah.
You know what?
It's just,
that character actually does exist. Invisibility.
I want the box to just be empty with accessories.
That would be very funny.
That would be hilarious. Invisibility?
My word.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to know more about Invisibility. Oh, Invisibility isn't invisible in his box.
Unacceptable.
I was hoping for like it's got a beanie hat. Like I would want like a beanie hat, his jacket, his skinny jeans, but nothing else. Just floating there.
Or it's like an actual doll that's just like made of clear plastic.
Yeah. Or no. Go ham and just empty box with like a cell phone accessory in there.
So I think for his doll and for like Spectra's doll, because Spectra is a ghost. For their dolls, they made their limbs like kind of like when it gets towards like their hands and feet, their limbs become like translucent.
Oh.
Which is like
wait, on the doll?
Yeah, like it
That's
kind
cool.
of fades from like opaque to clear, which is just it's a really neat detail, and they do that a lot with a lot of the first gen Monster High designs and like the dolls. They did like a Twyla, the daughter of the Boogeyman. Her doll scared the shit out of a lot of people because people didn't know that her eyes glow in the dark.
Oh my god. She's the doll that you're like trapped in the room with. And then it gets to you're like, that's a cool doll, and it gets to nighttime and you're like, I think I'm dying tonight.
Oh. I guess we'll finish this off with myself. And if I have to go with one, I'm gonna go with lore-wise.
Turtles.
You'd think that, but actually McFarlane Toys. And I know
Biker
this
Mice
because
from Mars.
I can't do Biker Mice from Mars. We can't all do Biker Mice from Mars.
I know that it's
one
the
of us
best,
is going to have
but
to change.
It's true. This is
one of
embarrassing.
us is gonna have to change.
Awesome.
Ugh.
Incredible.
Anyway, the reason why I have to bring that up because when the toy line was around, I went to some store and they had a huge collection of it, and I once did a movie marathon based on all the toys I could recognize that McFarlane Toys did.
Oh, that's fun.
That's pretty cool.
And so, like, look, I'm in it for the lore on that one for the more part. Like, I remember where this thing came from. That's Freddy Krueger, but I think that's Freddy Krueger from specifically like Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I'll go take a look at that, or Nightmare on Elm Street 1, which is pretty substantial or such.
Oh my god. I just realized we didn't talk about model kits. Gundam
Gundam
Zoids,
model
like,
kits,
oh my
legit,
god.
yeah. I'm like, hang on, model kits don't have backstories, with the Gundam line does. Yeah, they do. That's half the
And
thing.
they do like DBZ stuff ones too. They got Kamen Rider ones now. Like, model kit. There's a Cowboy Bebop one. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but my Biker Mice from Mars is Cowboy Bebop.
It's worse when you go back to it, or
Yeah, I just no, God no.
I
How
was
dare
like,
you?
I was like, wait a second.
No, it's amazing, and I talk about it consistently all the time, forever,
hmm
to the chagrin of my fellow hosts.
I believe
Whatever.
that Cowboy Bebop is more of your Alan Wake in this case.
Oh, okay. Well,
Because
I mean,
you talk about it a lot. You're like,
If
I
you-
want it
until
to
now,
be known that I am not the one who brought up Alan Wake this time.
that's true. You really held restraint.
Yeah,
You were-
Leo's
you
the
were-
one who brought it up this time.
are you talking about in the cast in general? Because, no, you brought it up at least once earlier.
No, I did not.
Roll
you
the
know-
tape.
I'll roll the tape. I'll roll
Yeah,
the tape and
no, I
find
didn't.
out.
I made a
Um,
joke about how, of all the people who would recognize Alan, you'd think it'd be me.
All right.
But
Now,
was
that being
it.
said, though, if you and the audience want to leave a comment and such, what toy line that you really enjoy, that especially for, like, its lore storyline, or just, in general? Don't stick with me. Like, there's a toy that I personally don't want to get because as much as I like Final Fantasy VI, the statue of Terra...
That's not a toy. That's not a toy. That 14
No, that's an
or 13,
investment. That's what that is.
13K statue?
Yeah.
I mean, what is a toy?
Not that! That's not
Not
a
that.
toy.
Not at that
a,
price.
a miserable pile of secrets.
If somebody was like, here, kid, while the adults are talking, play with this, and some kid broke my $13,000 Terra statue that I don't have,
Oh,
I'd be
so
pissed.
toys are just for kids then.
no. But that's not a toy. I'm just trying to say that's not a toy.
Okay,
I'm just
well, if you
saying,
say so.
Don't give the child the $13,000 Terra statue. You give them the $5 statue a transformer that may or may not be 1/8 of a Starscream and 1/7 of Optimus not Prime, Optimus the Mexican knockoff that was built on this that I'm gluing together.
Dude, my parents
Yes.
still don't fully understand the concept of they'll come over and see my doll shelf and they're like, so what do you do with them? I'm like, I just
Whatever
enjoy
want.
them.
that's it. I literally just look at them.
Yeah, I enjoy them. They bring me happiness. They sit on my shelf and make me happy.
Like, I am super happy for the Pasojo line of Ash, which is the first thing I get to see when I walk into my bedroom and the first thing I get to see when I leave my bedroom. It knows what it's about. But yeah, but our audience, listen to the comments or any of the comments that come up with the podcast episode. What is a toy line or a line of statues or whatever that you really, really enjoy? Now that being said, our next episode. Hang on, I gotta do episode math. I'll correct this in post if I need to, but our next episode will be available in June 7th. That being said, thank you everybody for coming in and listening to us. And yeah, just with that, and this is Gaming Theater Podcast logging out. Bye,
Go
everybody.
play.
Bye.
Now I'm gonna go play with some biker mice on walls.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Gaming Theater Podcast is hosted, created, produced, and edited by Leo Garcia, the Geek Scorpio. Our music is A Drinking Game. Stock media provided by Stormwave Audio /Pond5. Our cover art is by Adam Parker. You can find him at ParkerGFX on Twitter. If you want to send us some money to help with these episodes, you can do so at patreon.com/gamingtheaterpresents. Want to send support that doesn't hit your wallet? Please leave a review with wherever you hear your podcasts and share our podcast with your friends. It really helps out. Thank you for listening.